Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here in the sanctuary. It's great to see such a crowd on an August Sunday. Hello. Are we not hearing me? Okay. How's that? Better? So, great to see so many people on an August Sunday. Typically, that's our slowest month of the year. We were expecting even less people last Sunday because of the tropical storm Sandy coming through. And then, of course, it became urgent because we didn't have any power here, so that's why we had to cancel the service at the last minute. So we just brought that service forward, and we're going to have it for you today. I apologize to anyone who didn't get the word and came. Did anyone show up here? Okay, a couple. Patsy, you got to check your messages before Sunday. So anyway, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. We have one admin note that I'd like to get in before we start. And that's that on your the order of service that was given to you by the ushers, the reflection serving the beloved community with Skip Lundberg is incorrect. It just didn't get removed from last time, so don't worry about that. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure, Skip. So I'm Cliff Wells, your worship associate today, and we welcome all of you, new friends and old. Young and older, here in person or viewing online. You're an important part of this service, and it's really important that you be here with us. It makes us all much stronger worshiping together. We hope you find comfort, connection, and community here. Please visit us often, and if you join us, feel like you need to join us at home, or please see me after the service on that process. Our thanks today is given to those who are here to help with the service. That includes the hospitality crew, the greeters and ushers, Dan with technology, and of course Sean and Abby for providing great music as usual. I also want to give thanks to Brad Cornell, who's being our lay leader in the service today. He's allowing our minister, Tony, and Ann Fisher to have a little rest as they share their love with family in the Seattle area. As most of you know, Brad and Martha Cornell have served our congregation in many roles, especially as it relates to our great music program. They were both professional musicians long-term in former lives and both sing in our choir, currently in summer recess. Brad is a recent leader of our board of trustees and a regular religious exploration leader. His earlier career was playing trombone in orchestra, including Naples Philharmonic. For the last 20 years, he's been policy staff at the Audubon Western Everglades and the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. It is that passion for the environment, and particularly wildlife, from which his important message today emanates. It's a more complex and nuanced take on our obligation as citizens of the world, so you'll want to listen with focus. I also want to thank Carolyn Cornell for today's lovely pre-recorded violin selections. She was prepared to play for us live last week. Because we would have loved to have seen her, but she had to return to school and was when the service was abruptly canceled. Special thanks to her, Abby, and Dan, who came in Monday for the recording session to be aired throughout today's service. So you will see her and hear her, and I hope she's watching somewhere as she's ready to go to school. Carolyn grew up in this congregation and was graduated with a bachelor's degree of music in violin performance from the prestigious Oberlin Conservatory. While there, she also served for a year teaching stringed instruments to incarcerated men at a nearby prison. So that's a great opportunity she had to contribute further. She left this week for the Eastman School of Music at the University of Rochester to pursue her master's degree in violin. So I know you'll enjoy seeing her today. Now, let's relax and settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning prelude.
Good morning. For today's opening words, we have a reading from Aldo Leopold. Uh-oh. I'll wait. I don't want to compete with electrons. Conservation is getting nowhere because it is incompatible with our Abrahamic concept of land. We abuse land because we regard it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. There is no other way for land to survive the impact of mechanized man, nor for us to reap from it the aesthetic harvest it is capable, under science, of contributing to culture. That land is a community is the basic concept of ecology, but that land is to be loved and respected is an extension of ethics. That land yields a cultural harvest is a fact long known, but latterly often forgotten. These essays, this is from the Sand County Almanac, these essays attempt to weld these three concepts. Such a view of land and people is, of course, subject to the blurs and distortions of personal experience and personal bias. But wherever the truth may lie, this much is crystal clear. Our bigger and better society is now like a hypochondriac, so obsessed with its own economic health as to have lost the capacity to remain healthy. The whole world is so greedy for more bathtubs that it has lost the stability necessary to build them or even to turn off the tap. Nothing could be more salutary at this stage than a little healthy contempt for a plethora of material blessings. Perhaps such a shift of values can be achieved by reappraising things unnatural, tame, and confined in terms of things natural, wild, and free.
I warned you this was going to be a little more serious today, but necessary, of course. Please join me now as we read the chalice lighting response in your order of service and on the screen. Spark of the life, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love and alive in all creation, as we kindle this flame to rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Now please rise in body or spirit. Sorry, Dan. A little faster. Now please rise in body or spirit and join together to sing our opening hymn, When the Summer Sun is Shining. It's number 66 in the gray hymnal, and of course the words are on your screen.
When the summer sun is shining over golden land and sea, and the flowers in the hedgerow welcome butterfly and bee, then my open heart is glowing, full of warmth for everyone, and I feel an inner beauty which reflects the summer sun. When the summer clouds of thunder bring the long-awaited rain, and the thirsty soil is moistened, and the grass is green again. Then I long for summer sunshine, but I know that clouds and tears are a part of life's refreshment, like the rainbow's hopes and fears. In the cool of summer evening, when the dancing insects play, and in garden, street, and meadow linger echoes of the day, then my heart is full of yearning, hopes and memories flood the whole of my being, reaching inwards to the corners of my soul.
Please be seated. Please join me in a responsive reading by Martin Luther King Jr. from his Network of Mutuality. I'll read the first line and await your response. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. Thank you. Please stay seated as we sing our centering hymn. We celebrate the web of life. Number 75 in the gray hymnals, and the lyrics are on the screen.
Celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing, a fragment of the perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much in tiny barnacle as in the great blue whale. Of ancient dreams we are the sum, our bones link stone to star, and bind our future worlds to come with worlds that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air, which gave all creatures birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth.
It's Cliff, not Brad. So we're a welcome community where we find connection, and we are a spiritual community where we find meaning to our lives. So we take time each week to share our joys and our sorrows, because the experience of every person matters. This is a time to remember those in our lives who are struggling, sick, or have lost their lives. And we also remember those who are celebrating milestones, who have made an accomplishment or have conquered a fear, and we remember what or who we are thankful for. If you have something to share with us, please raise your hand and I will bring you the mic. Please state your name and share in your joy or your sorrow. Please, no announcements or political advocacy, although we're all prone to do that. And it's getting time. This is meant to be a personal sharing, so please raise your hand. Yes, we're on.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Laurent. Is this on?
Was.
Closer? There we go. I can usually work without them. I'm Barbara Laurent, and I just wanted to say two things. I have a wonderful joy, and that is that my husband Lou is recuperating from heart surgery, even though he doesn't think he is. And I'm just glad to have him back and participating in our lives. I also lost a very good friend a few weeks ago. She actually committed suicide. And I just want to take a moment to talk about the fact that sometimes people who spread a lot of joy in this world are pained, and they don't let anyone know it, except maybe a few of us. So keep your eyes out. When somebody is just over in the community doing too much, you got to ask yourself why sometimes. I loved her. She was my sister from another mother, and I'll miss her.
Hello, I'm Patty Friedberg. My husband Charlie and I were just in New Hampshire about 2 weeks ago, and we visited Harlene Richardson. There are very few people in this congregation who remember Harlene, but she will be 92 in the fall. She's as scrappy as ever. It was wonderful seeing her. She does have a little bit of a memory problem, but I kept, urging her on and showing her photographs and talking to her about the UU. And I think Charlie said he was pretty sure she did remember us. She remembered working at the public library. She remembered the domes, of course. She and her husband, Bruce, helped build the domes. They were among the first in our congregation, and she is the sole reason I am here today as a Unitarian. It was because of Harlene.
Great story.
I'm Dick Mackin, and my joy is that John Betcher is home from rehab.
Great. Thanks.
Since you said I have to make this personal, I'm joyful that the special cleaning crew deep cleaned the kitchen. Let's give them a hand. They did a great job.
Thank you, Joan.
I'm Chris Cowan, and some of you know my wife, Missy. She was 28 when we got married, and then on our first wedding anniversary, she turned 29. So on Friday, we celebrated our 44th first wedding anniversary.
You're a saint for putting up with him all these years, Missy. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Katie Rung. We were delighted to have Don's eldest son come visit us for the very first time since we've been married, which is just 31 years. So it was a surprise, but we had a delightful visit with him, and unfortunately we went on the Naples Princess and it broke down. Anyway, we had a very, very nice time with him, and we were delighted to have him come for a first visit. And he's off to France in the end of the month on a project, so we won't be seeing him for a while.
Good story.
Thank you. This is just to close out an earlier announcement 2 months ago when our daughter was informed us that she was pregnant with 3 triplets. She was joyously pregnant. Nobody I've ever seen was as happily pregnant as Caroline was. She went to the Children's Hospital in Denver about 2 weeks ago because she was afraid to give birth in Florida because of the inhumane laws here. So she went to Colorado, and she went into early labor. And it was just too early. The 3 little identical boys were born, and they all 3 died on her in her arms. So think of Caroline and her husband Peter. Thank you.
Our hearts go out to you guys and your families. We're very sorry to hear that. Anyone else? May all the joys and concerns spoken here this morning and those which remain unspoken be enfolded in the warmth of this community. Slowly, they return to the small woodland let alone. Great trees, outspreading and upright, apostles of the living light. Patient as stars, they build in air. Patient as stars, they build in air tier after tier. A tempered choir, stout beams upholding weightless grace of song, a blessing of this place. They stand in waiting all around, uprising in their native ground, downcomings of the distant light. There the advent they await. Receiving sun and giving shade, their lives a benefaction made, and it's a benediction said over the living and the dead. In fall their brightened leaves released, fly down the wind, and we are pleased to walk on radiance, amazed. A light come down to earth, be praised. I invite you to enjoy a few moments of silent meditation, very appropriate. Oh, you're back. I was just about to step in.
For our reading, I'd like to share an excerpt from Elizabeth Colbert's book, The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History. I strongly recommend you check that book out. She's a journalist who did a lot of research on past mass extinctions and looked at what is going on today from science perspectives, but also adding some conclusions that are pretty fascinating. An excerpt from near the end of her book. To argue that the current extinction event could be averted if people just cared more and were willing to make more sacrifices is not wrong exactly. Still, it misses the point. It doesn't much matter whether people care or don't care. What matters is that people change the world. This capacity predates modernity, though, of course, modernity is its fullest expression. Indeed, this capacity is probably indistinguishable from the qualities that made us human to begin with. Our restlessness, our creativity, our ability to cooperate, to solve problems, and complete complicated tasks. As soon as humans started using signs and symbols to represent the natural world, they pushed beyond the limits of that world. Quote, in many ways, human language is like the genetic code, unquote, the British paleontologist Michael Benton has written. Information is stored and transmitted with modifications down the generations. Communication holds societies together and allows humans to escape evolution. Were people simply heedless or selfish or violent, there wouldn't be an institute for conservation research, and there wouldn't be a need for one. If you want to think about why humans are so dangerous to other species, you can picture a poacher in Africa carrying an AK-47, or a logger in the Amazon gripping an axe, or, better still, you can picture yourself holding a book on your lap. This is pretty dark, and Colbert makes some impactful conclusions about the cause for increasing extinctions on Earth. However, I think she has underemphasized an important alternative path that would see humans use that same destructive intelligence to collaborate on solving both climate and biodiversity crises. What would break through to motivate such collaboration is the subject of my comments later today. Thank you for inviting me into the pulpit today. I have to confess that in my career role at Audubon, I usually only get 3 minutes to make my public comments before the county commissioners. So this is a bit of a shock and luxury for me. There's not even a red light up here or a buzzer to tell me when to stop. I'll try to be careful. Today, I want to talk about the newly adopted Unitarian Universalist principle on interdependence in Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. Why? Because as I've been thinking about the intersection between my religious community, you all, and the work of ecological restoration, these spheres increasingly appear much more related and interdependent to me. This UU interdependence value is at the heart of much of my personal and professional life. It reads like this: Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Mutuality, justice, care, respect. This UU statement could have been written by Martin Luther King. Mutuality for me is really core right here, and speaks of our common cause in moral community. This interdependence principle is preceded by the newly described central UU role of love. It says, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. I find great inspiration and understanding in these religious statements of value that our community promises to use for guidance. We are facing some truly daunting threats to our community: the sustainability of fair and just society, and the ecological networks that support us. These are threats that require all the human social animals' evolutionary power of collaboration and creative group problem solving. But without the inspiration of loving religious commitment and promise, there is little that will unite us to repair the harm we have inflicted on the interdependent web of existence. Again, loving moral commitment is vital to uniting society to repair the harm that's been inflicted on the interdependent web of existence. That web is both social and ecological. We are all familiar with these perils: global climate destabilization, the sixth mass extinction on Earth, and deteriorating societal trust in common values and objective facts. I shared some perspectives on the climate and biodiversity threats in a forum talk I gave this past March. Today, I want to emphasize a larger context for thinking about how to address these issues. That is the moral nature of the interdependent web of existence. While nature and the universe may not be inherently moral or just, humans have undermined the ecological health of the Earth and its many connected systems through moral choices that we have made in a blink of geological time. Our only hope to rescue and repair this damage is to unite around clear shared moral imperatives as expressed well in our newly stated principles on interdependence and love. They demand humility in acknowledging our place in this web of existence, but also using our religious commitment to love as motivation to work together for restoration of a sustainable existence for all life. As I think about love and restoration, it becomes clear to me that all our individual and community efforts to address injustice, poverty, racism, sexism, patriarchy, ignorance, and other social ills also resonate with efforts to repair the harm we have done and continue to do to our ecological sustainability. I think this is a vital lesson on the synergistic nature of moral work on the interdependent web. A good example of this synergy is that the empowerment of women and girls at every level of society also is one of the most effective ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Why? Doesn't sound particularly self-evident, but it's true. Educating females directly correlates to reduced fertility rates and increased standards of living and health of that community. Here at UUCGN, we try hard to assure our youth, and really all of us, understand the ethical human sexuality as we teach it in our whole lives curriculum, the OWL curriculum, and in coming of age, what it means to be a full adult member of this religious community, and the importance of community care and justice. Both of these fundamental UU youth programs are being taught this year in our congregation. One other important note I wanted to make regarding women empowerment: we may actually even have occasional opportunities to vote for women at various levels of government. Speaking of empowerment, let's get real. While it's tempting to think these problems are too big for each or all of us locally to make much progress on, the reality of interdependent resonance and the additive effect of many individual efforts cumulatively effecting change at scale is undeniable. What are some of the more examples of local opportunities to lovingly engage in meaningful responses to social and environmental needs? The UUCGN community is very active. Joe DiVincenzi's Carbon Crew Project, Joan Benz's continuance of the Green Sanctuary Program, youth and adult religious exploration, coffee houses, Emerson Academy, UUCGN's and Janet Hoffman's work on voting and elections, Martin Luther King Day demonstrations, music for civil rights and racial justice, the Caring Committee, meditation and yoga, choir, concerts, and worship music, the Menaker Art Gallery, hospitality work, Wonderful Wednesdays, Janet Hoffman's Native Plant Butterfly Garden, and the Garden Crew. This is a lot of web resonance. Because of my work at Audubon on climate change and ecosystem restoration and protection, I would like to share some additional endeavors we as individuals and collectively might consider. In order to push back on the wave of increasing species extinctions, now at least 1,000-fold above the background rate of just 1 or 2 per year, we must urge our leaders of national governments and institutions to work out treaties, laws, incentives, and financing mechanisms to acquire, protect, and restore the most strategic habitats around the world, These are listed very specifically by the late entomologist Dr. E.O. Wilson in his book, Half Earth, Our Planet's Fight for Life. For those who attended my forum talk in March, you'll remember when I shared Wilson's full list of places on Earth we cannot lose for biodiversity's sake. Many of you were taking pictures of that slide, and it contained something like 60 or 100 places around the Earth that he had asked land managers and scientists all over the world to tell him and send in. This was over a period of years. What can we not afford to lose? And that list is in that book. This is also embodied in his legacy Half Earth project, which is online at eowilsonfoundation.org, and the International Kunming-Montreal Agreement for preserving 30% of Earth's most vital habitat by 2030, also known as 30 by 30. Dr. Doug Ptolemy, another bug scientist, what is it with the bug scientists? They seem to have the best view of how ecology works. Got to get down to the base of the food chain, apparently. Doug Ptolemy has been convincingly advocating each of us and our local communities share our urban human spaces with wildlife and nature. This is primarily through replacing large portions of our grass lawns with native plants, critical to insects, bees, and butterflies, which brings back birds and other wildlife into our neighborhoods where we live. He wrote an influential book called Nature's Best Hope, which is convincing and well documented with many studies. His project online is called homegrownnationalpark.org, all spelled out. Check out that website, it's fascinating. Which aims to restore tens of millions of acres of pollinator and wildlife habitats in the urban United States. Tens of millions, over 40 million acres of grass in the United States. Half of that, 20 million, could be native plants for pollinators. This is as local as it gets, but will scale up to species and biodiversity benefits. I just want to share a quick story about negotiating with a very big developer on a huge 6,700-acre project here in Southwest Florida. I was sitting with my colleagues at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary in negotiation with this developer and his crew, a whole crew of consultants who were regaling how wonderful their project was. And at one point in the negotiation, I said, you know, you really need to reduce the amount of turf grass you've got on your project. You need to be putting in native plants for ground cover instead of grass. And he said, well, what else can I use? And a colleague of mine, Dr. Sean Clem out at Corkscrew, had been to my house and had taken pictures of Martha in my front yard, which has a ton of sunshine mimosa, which, if you know mimosa, it's a ground cover that has these beautiful purple puffy flowers. They look like they're from Mars or from a Dr. Seuss book. And so my yard was full of these purple flowers, and she passed a picture of that around to the developers and their consultants. And I count this as a step in the right direction. The developer said, well, I want to know more about this purple grass. So progress comes in little bits, but a list of local and individual climate mitigation projects each of us can do right here comes from a comprehensive 2017 book by Paul Hawken called Drawdown. This is the basis for Joe DiVincenzi's Carbon Crew project that's here, and you may have heard Joe give a presentation on this. Of 100 extensively evaluated strategies to reverse global warming and reduce greenhouse gases, over a quarter are local and individually doable. These include the education and empowerment of girls and women, including family planning and microfinancing, food waste reduction, plant-based diets, electric vehicles and public transport, composting and recycling, rooftop solar energy, yay, UUCGN, and many more. Join Joe's project and take a look at Hawkins' book. Work on our grounds, gardens, and more native pollinator plantings. And get involved with the Green Sanctuary Program here at UUCGN. These are all opportunities we can all avail ourselves of. One last quick story I want to relate is about the increasing urgency of us working on these together. I don't think it's hard to recognize this. You all are well-read and you're paying attention. But this story comes from Hurricane Ian. And in Ian, Martha and I, foolishly decided to stay here. And we live in Naples Park, very close to the beach. It was a bad idea. And so at one point, when before the electricity had gone out, we got a notice that a tornado was heading right towards our neighborhood. And so we piled into an interior bathroom with our dog, a big lab mix, and we're huddled in there, and all of a sudden the ceiling begins to leak, even though we just got a new roof, and so it looked very dark. But our dog thought this was wonderful, so it was like a big dog pile in the middle of a storm. But I bring that up because last week we had to do that twice more, 2 more tornadoes during just a tropical storm, Debbie. And then that storm went up to my brother's. And we got 4.5 inches at our house. He got 9.5 inches in North Carolina. And so just to say, this is not over and it's getting worse. And so if there was any need for a reminder about how urgent our work is, I think it's in front of us. To close, I want to share some perspective from a favorite author many of you will know, named David Brooks, who writes an opinion column for the New York Times, as well as a series of books on aspects of character and progress in society. He's conservative, I know, but even conservatives can have some good things to say. A question on his and all of our minds for some years now concerns the cause of such seeming irrational and alarming attraction of so many people in the United States to authoritarian leadership. That has been accompanied by a retreat from fact-based dialogue in politics specifically, but also society in general. Quoting from a recent book by cultural historian James Davison Hunter, he wrote a column on July 11th in which he agrees our current societal crisis is rooted in loss of a common sense of moral justice and Enlightenment rationality, both on which the founders based American government. He says these political and cultural beacons dimmed with Martin Luther King's death, and we've since been separating and descending into increasingly tribal views of reality and morality. However, I found Brooks's speculation on how this disintegration of common bases for American society and government can be repaired very interesting. He writes, quote, "The task, then, is to build a new cultural consensus that is democratic, but also morally coherent. My guess, and it is only a guess, is that this work of cultural repair will be done by religious progressives, by a new generation of leaders who will build a modern social gospel around love of neighbor and hospitality for the marginalized." Whether Brooks is correct, I don't know. But I am absolutely confident UUs, our kindred-spirited neighbors, and specifically we here in Southwest Florida, have a significant role and responsibility here and now. That is to pursue loving community care, social justice for our neighbors and the marginalized, uphold our common foundation of facts and honesty, and to urgently repair the damage being done to the interdependent web of all existence.
Brad, that was great. Thank you so much for bringing that home to us and our own responsibilities. It's the time, energy, imagination, creativity, compassion, and the financial support of members and friends of this congregation that fuel our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming and inclusive spiritual community. Your generous contributions support our mission to grow and serve. This financial support enables us to build a better peace, justice, and love in our congregation and in the world. For those online, a contribution can be mailed to the address on the screen, and also by using our website at uunaples.org. We are truly grateful for the gifts received. So August, as we know, is a slow month typically here in the congregation, but we still have a number of things going on. Sherry Arns will lead the August meeting of Aging Wisely this Thursday with adult enrichment through art and creativity. That's an ongoing program that's been very successful. If you'd like to show your support for Amendment 4, the amendment that limits government interference with reproductive life and abortion, one way is to sign a pledge card, which will be used to provide data on its level of support. These cards will be mailed directly to Floridians Protecting Freedom, who will compile the data. Please see Janet Hoffman after the service to fill one out. The card looks something like this. She'll have them out here on the patio after service. There will be a postcard party here at UUCGM in the library at 11:30 on August 18th. That's next Sunday. These postcards will ask people whose Amendment 4 prohibitions were rejected to register or re-register to vote. So you can see Sherry Arns' questions. So for other activities, please check your UUCGN weekly news. I think it arrived in your inbox earlier this morning if you haven't seen it yet, and you might find some other activities with which you want to participate. Now, please rise in body or spirit once again to sing our closing hymn together. That's For the Earth Forever Turning, number 163 in the gray hymnal.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For our world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth, to our blue-green hills of earth.
As we leave, please listen to the words of UU minister Reverend Dr. Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. Good morning.